It's us who make us suffer because we are focused on ourselves. When are we ourselves? When we're not thinking about ourselves.
Yeah.
The rose is not sitting there saying, oh, look how beautiful I am, look how wonderful I smell. No. It just is what it is, and it's giving its beauty and its scent to everyone. But the same with the marigold. There's no idea of themselves. They just give. If a flower can do that, if the sun can do that, how much more can a human do that? You see, what's beautiful about bhakti is that we are not asked to be different. We're asked to be ourselves more. We're focusing on the joy of service, then there's no suffering. It's depending on where we place our mind. And we know that for the people we love. Like your beautiful daughter was here.
Yeah.
Right? How much do you sacrifice for her? But do you think every day I'm sacrificing? Well, no, because you love her. The Lord is the essence of our essence. And when the mind becomes other-centric, then there's great joy and no suffering.
Tell me about music. So I mean, we can't do a podcast and not talk about Bhakti Marga's music. And I heard one of your lectures in which you're talking about 9 stages of Bhakti Marga, in which I think the second one is
Kirtan.
Is Kirtan.
Mm-hmm.
And you explain it so beautifully that when you're listening to Kirtan, you're not using your mind. It's going straight to the heart. What is self-love anyway?
Yeah, very good. Self-love is often misunderstood because we believe, especially in modern times, that self-love means egoistic love. And we know this when we love our children. You know, like when they're good children, nice. When they're not being so good, not so nice, but I still love them, right? And that's how we should love ourselves.
So hard because we judge ourselves every minute for all the actions that we've done, and we know how much wrong we've done, and if only the world finds out, our identity will be in shambles. What would you want to say to somebody who's feeling hopeless in life right now? Welcome to the super special episode of the Find Your Ultra podcast. This one is with Swami Tulsidas, who's from the US, and he's a disciple of Swami Vishwananda, who founded the Bhakti Marga. My wife and my 3-year-old daughter had been tripping on some of the amazing Kirtans created by the Bhakti Marga. They're amazing musicians. We had listened to them so much, we really wanted to get in touch. So we looked up Bhakti Marga India, and this time when we were in Vrindavan, we got in touch with them. And we were very fortunate that Swami Tulsidas was also visiting Vrindavan at the same time. He had a long flight, but he graciously agreed to do this podcast with me. So in this conversation, I've tried to learn how he became Swami Tulsidas and what pulled him towards a culture that was very different from the one he was brought up in. And I've also tried to ask him some of the questions about life that we all seek answers to at some point or the other. And so without further ado, here's Swami Tulsidas and me in the Find Your Ultra podcast. Indulge away. Swamiji, Swagatam. Welcome to the Find Your Ultra podcast.
Thank you so much. I'm really honored.
You've been gracious enough to say yes at such a short notice. You've been traveling, like your travel schedules have been very hectic, but thank you for making time to do this. So the podcast is called Find Your Ultra. So I'm an ultra distance runner, and I have a community of runners and athletes. But the ultra in our ultra stands for the ultra of life. And we try to have conversations where we can learn about how to live our ultra life, like our best version that's
Very
possible.
nice.
So we've had guests who speak about mental health, to oral health, to all kinds of health. Spirituality is, I think, probably the most important piece of the part. But it's just that in the modern day, the world's divided. We're so much more polarized in our opinions about belief in science or spirituality and religion and Sanatan. And there are just these terms that confuse the hell out of everybody. So yeah, I would try and sort of learn more about some of those from you on this podcast. But what we always do is to begin with learning about the person and their journey, because I think the most fascinating piece of me about this whole thing is someone coming from a different culture and adopting this. It's massive. Like, it gives me goosebumps to think about me adopting another, not just culture, place, but probably faith, and how much sacrifice and whatnot would have gone into this. and how many moments of doubts you would have gone through. And I would love to know more about that. So please tell us, where were you born? What was your journey before becoming Swami Tulsidas was like?
I was born in 1987 in Wisconsin in America. And I started getting interested in spirituality or religion, also different religions in high school. And I started meditating when I was 14, 15.
Oh,
And then I read the autobiography of a yogi, which is like a very massive book from Paramahansa Yogananda, especially in the West. And that was the doorway to Sanatana Dharma for me. And when I read that book, it answered so many questions for me. I grew up as a Lutheran, as a Christian, and of course I have great love and respect for Christ and Mother Mary and the Christian path still, but it didn't answer all the questions I was looking for. And Yogananda really opened the doorway to something completely different for me. And so when I was 16-ish, I decided I wanted to take sannyas. And I was in my economics class, and our teacher had us write how much money we would like to make per year in the future. Yeah. And then on the other side, what would be our dream job? This was his way of being like, well, you want to make lots of money, but that job doesn't fit, you know?
Oh.
So he wanted to help everybody. And I wrote $0. And on the other side, sannyas. And
Wow.
So when he got
that
to
matched.
me, yeah, totally. So when it got to me, I was like $0. And of course, he laughed. He said, that doesn't make any sense. Well, what's on the other side of the card? And I said, I want to be a monk. And he went, okay, never mind. That makes sense. And he moved on. And it was something super deep inside of me. Like I really wanted to give my life to something greater. I wasn't really sure what that was at the time. But then I met my Gurudev when I was 18, and he was traveling to California. And I happened to be in the area, and I felt this great calling to meet him. When I heard his name, Swami Vishwananda, I had never heard his name, but I felt I had heard his name before. It was this instant calling towards him. And when I met him, the love he produced, like you could touch it in the air. It was so overwhelming. And I thought, I would like to be like you one day. So I asked if I could be his devotee, if I could live with him in his ashram. He said yes. And so a few months later, I moved to his ashram and took brahmachari soon after.
Which ashram did you move to?
His main ashram in Germany near Frankfurt called Sri Pitinalaya. So I moved there, lived there for 12 and a half years, and took brahmachari, then took sannyas a few years later. And he gifted me this beautiful Ugra Narasimha, and this is my my personal deity.
There you go. So I would love to hear more about. But before we get to that, you said 14, when you were 14, 15, that's when you started meditating. What was that about? Like, why would a 14-year-old meditate? Like I see the merit in it, and I see how wonderful that can be, but it's just that people don't. So what was it about you that got you into that?
The truth is, it might seem a little bit strange, but it was around September 11th. So that happened when I was 14. And this was a very important time. I mean, I would say like in the whole American culture, but also I was in class when it happened. And my teacher walked in, turned on the television, and I thought, why are we watching an action movie? This is weird. And then when it became real, it was the first time I was confronted with how life is temporary. And of course, it started making me think. And I remember like looking at my parents, my friends' parents, who I was very close with, or second parents to me. And I thought, is that it? Mm-hmm. Like, every day they go to work, every day they come home. It's the same thing every day. Is that it? in life. That the greatest thing in life would be just to be stable. And I thought, that's not what I want. If who knows, at that time I was thinking, who knows if we have many lives or only one life. But what I do know is that this is my life, and I want to live it to its fullest in the way I want, regardless of what anybody else thinks. And how I want to live my life is a life of service, And so I started meditating to look for something else. It was the first time that I was able to find my own answers. Up until then, I was always told what is the reason of life, or what is right, what is wrong, by parents, school teachers, friends, family members, whatever. This was the first time I was able to find my own answers. What is right for me? And it was what I was always looking for, a way for me to listen to myself, my own heart.
Yeah. And what was it about you that didn't, at that tender age, didn't take you towards negative influences and people? That's the time where people get into drugs and alcohol and parties and all of that. Was it just the company that you were keeping? Was it your upbringing that sort of kept you away from that, or something that you were reading?
I have to say, I had very, very loving parents. And my father especially is a very big influence in my life. And his only rule was, do not lie to me. But I could do whatever I wanted. And he always supported in whatever I wanted to do, as long as I was honest with him. And that freedom he gave allowed me to decide what I wanted, like from a very young age. Like, he gave such a great freedom that he allowed me to, I guess he supported me listening to myself. And so even if my friends were doing drugs or alcohol or something, I could listen to myself and say, that's not what I wanted, and my father supported that. He would have supported the other thing too, obviously, like whatever, just, I'm here, I'm your father, be honest, I'm here to support you. So when I started to meditate and I started to do yoga, he was very supportive. And especially where I'm from, there's a lot of like meat eating and drinking of alcohol and that kind of stuff. And when I decided not to do any of that, he fully supported it. He was, if that's what you want, that's cool. And I'm very lucky to have such a supportive father.
Wonderful. I hear you talk about him quite a few times in your lectures. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's great.
So he's also a devotee of our Gurudev also now.
He is?
Yeah.
Amazing. Who actually gifted you Paramahansa Yogananda, this book?
Yes,
Life of a Yogi.
This was interesting. So I was going to a Hatha yoga class, the only one in my area, and I was the only man and the only person under 50. Okay. And so I was like, that's weird. But they were all the older ladies were very welcoming. And our teacher that we had, one day she just walked up to me and she said, have you heard of Autobiography of a Yogi? And I said, no. And she said, oh, it's written by Yogananda. Similar to like how I said, I when I heard my guru's name first, it was the same thing. I had never heard Yogananda before, but I felt like I'd heard his name before. It was a very similar experience. Wow. And she said, oh, well, he wrote a book. Maybe you'd like it. I said, okay. But actually, I felt very uncomfortable, this mystical feeling. It was something I had never experienced before. So I was a bit hesitant. But a couple weeks later, my mother asked if let's go to the bookstore and get a new book. And I was, of course, very much into spiritual books. So when I went to the spiritual section, you had to sort of go down the hallway, take a left and take a left. It was in this little corner. Every single book from top to bottom, left to right, was Autobiography of a Yogi. There was no other spiritual book. And I'd been there 100 times, and usually there's books on Buddhism and, chakra stuff or whatever, They were all gone. It was only Autobiography of a Yogi. And immediately I was like, okay, obviously it's a sign. So grabbed it, and I couldn't put it down. It was really the first book that seemed to have the answers that were talking to my heart. And that's what really opened Sanatana Dharma for me.
Wow. And yeah, some people say that about the Bhagavad Gita as well.
Mhm.
That's the one that changed their life. And I feel so guilty of having heard so much about the book and having the book at my home, but never reading it. And maybe that's what needs to change, I guess.
It is a very beautiful book, and
Yeah.
he especially for people who don't have the knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita or Sanatana Dharma in general. I suppose you do, but it's a very wonderful book, especially I would say maybe for Westerners, because he approaches everything in a very simple way, in a understanding way, without watering anything down.
Mm.
He's clear. Bhagavan exists. Become a saint. Become a great yogi. That's the purpose of life. He doesn't water anything down, but he explains it in a very approachable way.
Amazing.
A great book.
Okay. Tell us about the time you met Guruji the first time.
So I was at this other ashram, and a resident there had told me about him. This other ashram was in the lineage of Mahavatar Babaji. It was a Yogananda ashram.
Okay.
And Mahavatar Babaji is this great guru who lives in the Himalayas. And he...
So there's Larry Messiah in the...
correct. Yeah, exactly.
Same lineage?
Exactly. So
Okay.
Mahavatar Babaji, Lahiri Mashaya, Shri Yukteswar, Yogananda. Yeah. And Mahavatar Babaji is also our Gurudev's Gurudev,
Okay.
right? So he's a disciple of him, and my friend, this resident of this ashram, said, "Hey, my family's going to go meet this young Swami." I was 18, so he was 27 at the time. He was very, very young, and he's a disciple of Mahavatar Babaji.
Okay.
Maybe you would like to go see. And I said, "Oh, what's his name?" I said, "Oh, Swami Vishwananda." And like I said, I had never heard Vishwananda, but I had felt like I'd heard this name before, like deep inside of me. And because of my experience with Yogananda's name, it was very similar. I thought, okay, I have to meet him. I don't know, but I have to meet him. So when I got home that day, Googled him, scrolled down, found his picture. And as soon as I saw his picture, my heart, for the first time in my life, made audible words. He is your guru. And to be honest, this was a bit scary. It wasn't like angels appearing and blissful.
Mm.
I didn't know what to do with that. So I went to the mandir and I prayed. And I said, well, if you truly are, a Satguru, if you truly are enlightened, then you can hear me. I have no way to get to see you, even though he's about 2 hours away. So you have to figure it out. And if it doesn't work out, then I know you're not my guru. What I just experienced was my own fantasy.
Sure.
I walk out of the mandir, and as I open the door, I almost hit my friend in the face. And she's from the town where Guruji was going. And hey, I'm going to go meet a saint. You want to come with? Oh, where? I said, oh, where you're from? And she said, yeah, okay. It was that easy.
Right.
But it was so easy that I didn't believe it. I was like, that doesn't count. So,
Yeah.
So for the next month, I kept, praying to him and talking to him. And when we went to go meet him, it was a very impressive experience. We walked into the house where he was giving interviews, and he walked out of a door, maybe about as far as you and I are away. And my friend was kneeling down, taking off her shoes. And even looking down, you can see you out of the corner of your eye, right?
Yeah.
But as he walked out of the door, he turned, smiled, and pranamed. And everything disappeared except him. There was just light everywhere.
Tunnel vision.
Yeah, it was amazing. And of course, it was practically very fast.
Mm.
But the moment felt like an eternity. And when he walked away, I hit my friend and I said, did you see him? And she said, see who? I said, what do you mean? He was right there. She said, I didn't see anybody. I said, okay, that was weird.
What?
But okay. So then he goes into the basement where he's giving the interviews. And then we're led down to the basement a few minutes later, and there was a bench. And as we sat down, a lady came out of the room, and she was crying deeply, like like cathartic. It was clear. Something was being
Coming
released.
out.
Yeah. And my friend looked at me and she said, well, what's that about? And I said, I don't know. I've never met a saint before. I don't know. I don't know what saints do. And the next lady went in. A few minutes later, same thing. My friend says, well, you can go. She was a bit like weirded out. And I was like, are you sure you're next? She said, no, you go. And I said, okay. So I went inside, and Yogananda wrote in the Autobiography of a Yogi that if you ever go see a saint, you should bring a flower or a fruit to show your devotion. So I didn't know anything except that. So I brought an apple, So he's sitting in his chair like this, and he puts out his hand. I said, oh, he wants the apple. So I put the apple in his hand. He goes, what? No. And he threw the apple, and he said, you. And he grabbed me and pulled me so close. And as I was looking up to him, the love he was producing in the air was so much that my mind couldn't think except, I love you. 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 For maybe 5 minutes, I just sat there in silence. And finally he laughed and he said, well, do you have any questions? And again, just like before, when my heart said, he's your guru, now my heart made the words, are you my guru? But it was so frightening. Part of my subconscious understood if I asked this question, my dreams of traveling or taking sannyas somewhere else, I was thinking about, moving here to India and taking sannyas and being a traveling sadhu. And I told my mom, you'll never see me again. She cried a bunch. And I was like, be happy. Okay, anyways, I was 15 at the time, so I 15-year-old boy doesn't understand how the mom feels.
Let him do this for a while. He'll come back.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And but I knew if I asked him, "Are you my guru?" all of my desires would be done, and I would follow him until the day I die. Some part of me knew that, and so I didn't want to ask. But the words became so loud that I couldn't hear anything externally, and finally I just had to ask. And so I whispered, "Are you my guru?" And he smiled and nodded. And all of that fear immediately went away, which is the essence of fear. It doesn't exist. It's not real. It's a figment of our imagination. And when we finally confront it, we'll see it's not there. It's not real. It's not tangible, actually. And so when he smiled and nodded, it was like it never existed. I didn't know anything about him except what he looks like. And his name is Swami Vishwananda. So I asked, well, can I live with you in India? Because he's of Indian descent.
Right.
And he laughed. He said, I'm not from India. I said, oh, I'd heard somewhere Mauritius. And going in my memory from high school, Mauritius, Africa, I'm thinking the Serengeti, with giraffes and zebras and stuff. And I thought, I never really wanted to go to the Serengeti, but okay, if that's where my guru lives, that's where I go. So I said, can I live with you in Africa? And he laughed and said, I don't live in Africa. And I said, well, where do you live? And this was my first experience of the power of a saint. The closeness of a saint in Bhagavan, or the Lord, is so close that for us, we can't differentiate. And the saints, they have pseudo-personality. Meaning that they have a personality, but they can also drop it whenever they want and to show their divinity. But they will take on a personality so that they can talk to us because we are limited by a personality. Yeah. And so if they just stand in their glory, we don't know what to do with them, So in this moment, he dropped his pseudo-personality, and you can see it in his eyes. He completely changed. And he said, I live in the hearts of all people. And these were the first words of my life that I knew were true, that the Lord lives in the hearts of everyone. Growing up in our church, of course, they would give homilies or they would give their talks, but still everything they said was debatable because it was just their personality or their thoughts on what Christ said, for example. These were the first words that I knew were coming from a divine experience. And of course, I was in awe because I'd never experienced such a thing before. But then my mind started to think, that's not helpful. Where do you live? And without saying these words, he just started laughing and he said, I live in Germany. And of course, I was shocked, like he read my mind. And I said, well, can I live with you in Germany? And he said, yeah. So we talked a little bit more about the importance of service, importance of love. And then I left happy. And my friend looked to see am I crying?
Yeah.
I wasn't. And she's like, and I gave her a thumbs up. And she said, okay. So she went in. She came out a few minutes later also crying. Yeah.
But the way you describe the whole experience is insane. It's incredible. Like, I feel the love here in your presence. I feel what you would have felt in that moment. But I guess it was sort of, there was no decision making involved at the time because of the way it was hitting you, with the intensity that you were feeling something within. The decision and everything was sort of easy. And
yeah, it was.
they also say with great love, with great knowledge comes great pain, which I have an intuitive understanding of, and I think that's sort of true, but that contradicts with the love bit of it. But in a recent poem that went viral in Indian social media circuits when Ram Mandir was being built and Pran Pratishtha was happening, he just begins the poem with these lines that say, कितनी दिक्कत होगी पता है राम समझ आ जाए तो. Matlab, what it means is, do you know how hard life will become if you understand who Ram is? You're just saying the name Ram and you're using Jai Shri Ram maybe as a slogan or something. But if you really understand what Ram is, it's gonna get hard, because Ram stands for a lot of sacrifice, a lot of humility that to the extent that that's difficult for a layman to even imagine. So if you to accept anything or to enter into anything like this which you've never experienced before, first there will be a lot of discomfort and pain. Did you experience that too?
Yeah, somehow. But you see, in the path of bhakti, you see, what's beautiful about bhakti is that we are not asked to be different. We're asked to be ourselves more. And love and bhakti is not foreign to anyone. And so, yes, the spiritual path can be difficult if we're focusing on the sacrifice. But if we're focusing on the love of Ram, we're focusing on the joy of service, then there's no suffering. It's depending on where we place our mind. And we know that for the people we love. Like your beautiful daughter was here.
Yeah.
Right? How much do you sacrifice for her? But do you think every day I'm sacrificing? Well, no, because you love her. Yeah. Are you sacrificing? Absolutely. But you don't think like that. Mm. And so it's the same. This is the only transition that one must make, is the self-centered mind will say, I'm sacrificing. But when we change the mind to being self-centered to Bhagavan-centered, to Gurudev-centered, then the idea of I'm sacrificing goes away. And there's only this great joy. Because as spiritual beings, we are naturally other-centric. Right? Bhagavan is not self-centered. If he was self-centered, none of us would exist, because he would say, like, look at all of you. Like, I am so great, because he is great. Hmm. But he doesn't even know his own greatness. Ram doesn't know his own greatness because he is bhakta-centric. We are here chanting the Lord's name, right? So our mula mantra is Shri Vittal Giridhari Parabrahmane Namaha, right? So every day we're doing our japam so that us bhaktas become Bhagavan-centered. But Bhagavan, he is, with his infinite mouths, he is chanting all of the bhaktas' names. Right. He is bhakta-centric. And so, yes, of course, there is some discomfort, but the discomfort only comes when we are self-centered. Like, oh, look at how much I'm sacrificing, oh, I could have a different life. Oh, I've taken sannyas, but I could have so much money, or whatever the mind might say. But that's because the mind is self-centered. But when the mind becomes Bhagavan-centered, there's no suffering anymore. Bhagavan is not a masochist. He hasn't created Prakriti, he hasn't created this reality for us to suffer. It's the opposite. It's us who make us suffer because we are focused on ourselves. And we know this even in our any love relationship we have with you and your daughter, you and your wife, you and your parents. When we have love, the mind stops thinking about itself and we have great joy. It is our nature to be joyful. When are we ourselves? When we're not thinking about ourselves.
Yeah.
So like any flower, the rose is not sitting there saying, "Oh, look how beautiful I am. Look how wonderful I smell." No. It just is what it is, and it's giving its beauty and its scent to everyone. But the same with the marigold. There's no idea of themselves. They just give. And that is, if a flower can do that, if the sun can do that, how much more can a human do that? It is our nature to love and to give ourselves to those who we love. Ultimately, we should give ourselves to Bhagavan. Bhagavan is not a singular being like a human is. Bhagavan is in the hearts of all beings. He is the Paramatma. He sits in the soul. He is the essence of one's essence. When we talk about the soul, we often think of like a ball of light inside of us or something. Okay, sure. But a better imagery, because it's a transcendental reality, it's not something the mind can understand, but a better imagery is one's essence. And the Lord is the essence of our essence. And he is the essence of all. He's the essence of every plant, every animal, every human. And when we fall in love with Bhagavan, we naturally love all beings. We can't separate the two. I can't say, oh, I love Narasimha so much, but not you. Well, that doesn't work because he is Paramatma. He is inside of you. So if I love Narasimha, I must love everybody. And when the mind becomes other-centric, then there's great joy and no suffering.
Wow.
I forget which saint said this, but he was on his deathbed. He was about to take samadhi. And one of his disciples looked at him and said, "Oh, Gurudev, your entire life you have lived as a sannyas. You have lived serving all of us. You have sacrificed so much. Please tell me why." And he laughed and he said, "From my perspective, you're the one who has sacrificed.
Wow.
Because you have sacrificed the joy of love. I've sacrificed nothing. I've only lived with great joy." And this is why I'm so drawn to our Gurudev, because he has such a positive outlook on life and the spiritual path. It is not which I would say was very different on how I grew up, where it was like one must be good or you're going to go to hell for all eternity. So there was a natural fear inside. That didn't resonate with me. In general, Sanatana Dharma is not a path of fear. It is a path of joy because one gets to choose. In Sanatana Dharma, it's an all-encompassing reality. So within it, there's many different paths that resonate with each type of person. And I get to choose the way that resonates with me. And of course, our Gurudev, his way is very like a positive, joyful way. And so I was visiting my sister recently, and we were talking about things, and she calls me her Swami bro. And so she respects what I do. And we were doing Abhishekam together and everything, very nice. And I assumed that the way I dress as a sannyasi, maybe my prayers, maybe my meditation would have been what was off-putting or weird to her. That's not the case. The only thing that was weird was when we're talking about how we're doing, I had nothing to complain about. I wake up happy, I'm happy all the time, and I go to bed happy. And for her, this was the most impactful thing. Because when we're other-centric, there is no suffering.
Yeah. Makes so much sense. I guess makes so much sense is not the right expression for this. It just appeals to me, like it speaks to me and, makes me think. Tell me, what do you think about this? So I'm an ultra distance runner. So we run long distances. And let's say, there are a lot of runners who are atheists, and I'm in the exploration stage, and I haven't made up my mind yet, and which is why I'm learning. And you've been so gracious enough to teach somebody who's not on the path. So thank you. I do ultra marathons. So I was doing my first ultra marathon ever. And in that, I had a couple of moments at around 70, 80 kilometers, or yeah, between 70 and 80. I was completely done. I was like, this is all I had. I've given everything I had. I have no energy. And that's a test that I have for myself, and I'm putting in effort. I asked myself, is this all you have? And the answer was yes, that's all I have. But I kept going a little further, a little further. And then there came a stage where something happened to me, and it's not like I took some energy gel or something, nothing at all, but I felt some energy coming inside me from somewhere. And the next 10 kilometers were a breeze. I could so you mentioned transcendence. So I couldn't even feel my legs, which were blistered and bleeding, and I felt like I could see a zoomed out image of myself, and I could see a being who's suffering, who's going through blisters, pain, and also he's got all of these things going on in his mind. But I could see it wasn't affecting me. So in a way, I was feeling like it was all going on, but so that was the first time I felt there's more to me than this body, maybe.
Mm.
But it wasn't through the Bhakti Marg.
Mhm.
It wasn't through the realization of God or anything. I just felt this, and it's not like I feel that every time. I've done numerous ultra marathons after that, and I've never felt it, never experienced it again. Uh, so I was telling this to one of my mentors, who's a great human being and an atheist, and he said this was lack of glucose going to your brain.
That's a funny answer.
Yeah. So he said that's about it. Don't think too much. That's what was happening. What would you say to that? What could have been happening? Was that, are there margs apart from the Bhakti Marg?
Yeah, absolutely. So first off, everyone is on the spiritual path, if they know it or not, if they think about it or not, because we are spiritual beings, and that happen to be in a human body. And so as obviously we believe in reincarnation, so that means no matter where I find myself, or no matter what is my paradigm, no matter what I think, I'm a spiritual being which is growing and changing and learning. Yeah. And so and as we are spiritual beings, we can have spiritual experiences. So like you explained, an experience that is that reminds us that we're not this mind, or we're not this body, we're something more. We can have that in infinite amounts of ways. And running is an amazing one. Some will have it through music or through painting. Some will, of course, have it through meditation or whatever. Because we have to understand that we are spiritual beings. That is who we are.
Yeah.
We just don't know. So, but we can tap into that spiritual essence, our true self, in many different ways, because that is who we are. You know, like the sun may forget it's the sun, but it doesn't matter. It is the sun. And so we may forget that we're spiritual beings, but it doesn't matter. We are it anyways. And so Bhagavan will find whatever way is necessary to remind us. In the Bhagavad Gita, that's the first thing which Krishna speaks to Arjuna about. He reminds him, you're not this mind, you're not this body. It's the first thing he teaches, because it's the first thing we must realize to enter into the spiritual path. Now, there's a difference between religion and spirituality. Religion is doing things because we're told, because if we don't do it, then, bad karma, we go to hell or whatever, fear-based reason. Spirituality is a joyful path. It is now, I'm not being told to do it. I want to do it because I feel it inside. And it's something which cannot be proven. Often when some people consciously enter the spiritual path, it's natural. We grew up in a scientific world, so we would like spirituality to be proven.
Yeah.
But it cannot be, because it is not a physical reality. There are physical side effects, for sure, and positive physical side effects, yes, but it is not of the physical reality. So one must listen intuitively to their heart. And that first step is to have an experience. I'm not this mind, I'm not this body. I am something other. I'm something bigger, something greater.
And then there should begin a pursuit of what that bigger being is.
Precisely. And every path will explain it in a different way. And each person has to find the path or the guru, the teacher, which they resonate with.
Right.
That's why I very much love Sanatana Dharma, because it puts the responsibility on us, not something else. I get to choose the path which resonates with me. And like one thing I love about our Gurudeva is that he gives respect to everyone and all paths. We need to find the one that resonates with us and follow it to the end. And of course, obviously, I resonate with this path,
Sure. So there's Bhakti Marga. There are 9 ways that you talk about. I would love to talk about those as well. But why don't you tell us initiation?
Yeah, so this is Paranitya Narasimha. This is my personal Murti, which was materialized by our Gurudeva when I was 23. Okay. He was secret for 7.5 years. And when our Gurudeva, I was speaking to him, he asked how life is. I said, I love it. I love life. I get to pray whenever I want, meditate whenever I want. I love my service, it's great. Life is great. And then he just changed as he does. And he stood up and he said, I've decided I will give you a Murti. And the atmosphere changed. It was, like after you're walking in the mountains or something and there's a mystical feeling, it was like that, but times 1,000. And there was like electricity in the air. I could hear like electricity like snapping in the air, and my skin was on fire. There was so much Shakti in the room. And he said, bow down. I bowed down. He said, think of your Devata. And he placed his hand on his chest and he started growling like Narasimha. And after 45 seconds, a minute, and out of light, out of his chest came this Murti. And when he handed him to me, he wasn't yet fully materialized. Like, it was like I couldn't really focus on him. I couldn't see him. He was still like shifting somehow. I placed him on the table, grabbed his feet, thank you, Gurudev. And then when I turned back, I realized he was Narasimha, which was a shock for me. My name is Tulsidas because I love Tulsi so much. So I was expecting a Murti of Tulsi, I guess, or something. So from that day, for the next 7.5 years, he was secret. I would do my abhishekam and my pujas in my room alone. And he's a very special Murti. And then on my sannyas initiation in 2018, he became public. And then we started looking for an ashram in America. We have now a temple for him, a large temple in New York, Elmira, New York. We have an 8-foot tall replica, so 8-foot tall black granite Ugra Narasimha. He's very beautiful, amazing. We do abhishekam on him twice a year on the anniversary, which just happened a couple weeks ago on September 3rd. And of course, Narasimha Chaturdashi. And we have to be on big ladders. It's beautiful. Yeah. And so we have a giant temple for him. And of course, everybody's welcome. And
I would love to go and darshan.
It would. Yeah. You're always welcome. It'd be a pleasure to have you.
Yeah.
And your family.
Thank you. So why was it secret for 7 years?
Honestly, because of Guruji's humility. He didn't want, especially his devotees, to know his greatness, to be honest. Of course, I wanted to stand at the top of the mountain and be like, look at what our guru can do, like to materialize a Murti, to give a Swayambhu, self-manifested Murti. It shows his closeness with the Lord. But out of his humility, he didn't want it. And on the sannyas day, it was my initiation day, It was during Navaratri. And so for that day, I sat and prayed that the Divine Mother would change his mind. Because originally he was still supposed to be secret as long as he's in the body. But the Divine Mother appeared to him and said, no, it's time. Let the people know. And so I can say, like, literally, my life is by the grace of my Guru. Quite literally, even the ashram we have, the temple we have, if he wouldn't have materialized such a form, the 16-armed form of a Narasimha, this temple wouldn't exist, the ashram wouldn't exist, and my life would just be so much more different than I can't even imagine, actually. So, yeah, the Divine Mother said it's time, and so, of course, he would listen to her. And so plans changed.
Beautiful. And you've from what you've been talking about so far, and also in your lectures, Guru, like you just said, has a huge influence in your life. How do in this day and time, we have gurus everywhere, and like self-proclaimed gurus, and there are so many fake ones. In the age of social media, of course, whatever you're seeking is what you find on social media as well, because the algorithms pick things up in that way, and so many of them just say so many things which are ridiculous, and you can sort of filter out. Some of the fake ones can easily be filtered out. How does one go about finding their guru?
One must feel inside. Well, do they resonate with what the Guru teaches? And a true Guru, their teachings and them are one and the same. There's no hypocrisy. Yeah, and their teachings are other-centric. It's not self-centered. They're not saying how great I am, come bow to me or whatever. The asana of Gurudev is only because us devotees have asked for it. When I first started following Guruji, right when he was young, there was no such thing. It was only after many years of us being like, Guruji, we would like to put you there. We'd even call him Guruji in the beginning, just Swami. Because he didn't put himself up on that pedestal. He always sat in the back, or he would sit with us and do the bhajan with us, and he is endlessly serving. So a true guru lives like Bhagavan lives. A true guru is the mouthpiece or the example of how Bhagavan loves. Bhagavan is Bhakta Vatsala. His mind is always on the Bhakta. He's always serving the Bhakta. If we read the Srimad Bhagavatam, we see how selfless the Lord is to his Bhaktas. And even, in the life of Krishna, those who are not his Bhaktas, all the demons that tried killing him, he gave liberation to them because he loves endlessly and unconditionally. And first off, we need to, your question was, how do we find our guru? Well, listen to their teachings. And if that resonates with your heart, then follow. And then, of course, living with him for many years, the first 4 years, I was still waiting for something selfish because I was like, but that's normal. It's just normal. And finally, I had to give up. Because even the things which seemed selfish were actually for me or for someone else. For example, one day I was so stressed about, my Seva. When we get so stressed that we're so much in our mind, we don't even see what's happening in front of us, And I was walking up to the cafeteria, and he was walking by, and he's like, oh, Tulsidas. And of course, seeing him snapped me out of my stress. And he said, oh, would you make me a tea? I said, oh, yeah, sure. So, oh, well, that seemed selfish. Even small, hey, make me a tea. I said, okay. But it was a pleasure. So I go make him the tea, bring it to him. He takes one sip, puts it to the side. And I thought, oh, maybe it wasn't good. I don't know, But we sat and talked. It was nice. And then we go to leave. And he takes a left. He's going somewhere else in the ashram. I'm going to the cafeteria. And I stepped in the same place where we first met. And I remembered what I felt 5 minutes ago, that I was so stressed. I was so anxious about certain things, but now I'm not. Why? Because he saw me in such a state and said, okay, serve. My mind went outside of myself to somebody else. So even that moment when he asked for the tea was actually for me and not for him.
Wow.
And I finally had to give up and say, wow, he lives like Bhagavan lives, where Bhagavan gives his life for everyone. And so a true guru will do the same. It will not always appear that way. The guru is given to us by Bhagavan to confront our limitations, to confront our negativity. And of course, the guru is not always going to be sweet and nice, loving, just like a parent. A parent will not always be sweet and nice when the parent needs to protect their child, right? And so the guru is the same. So if we go to a guru who's always sweet, always nice, I think we should be a little bit weary, because when we're sweet and nice, then the person always likes us. Then the guru wants the devotees to always like them. But that's not the case for him. Sometimes he'll tell me straight how I need to change, and I'm so grateful. And every time he's doing that, he's putting our relationship on the line. He's saying, your happiness is more important than our relationship.
Wow.
And that's a true guru. A true guru will put the devotees first and confront their limitations, but always in a loving way. Always in a loving way. And I can say every time I've learned my lesson, whatever lesson he's trying to help me with, immediately he changed. Like he didn't harp on it. Oh, you've learned? Okay, moving on. He didn't like hold on to it and say, oh, you remember 5 years ago you said this or you did that. No, he's completely forgotten and moved on.
Yeah.
And because he's other-centric, And so, to summarize, find a guru which resonates with you. Make sure that their life and their teachings are one and the same. There's no hypocrisy. And watch for their service. A true guru, their life is service.
Yeah.
Because they want nothing. They need nothing. They have Bhagavan, who is everything. So what do they need of this world? Nothing. So the question is, why do they stay? Why are they here? Well, because they love.
There's a saying that says, it goes something like this: Guru Gobind do khade ka ke lagu paye, Balihari Guru aapne Gobind diyo milai, which basically just means if I have Bhagwan and Guru in front of me, whose feet should I touch first? And it should be. So he says it's the Guru because he's the one who's made me realize or meet the Lord.
Absolutely. And some may say, oh, but that's not true because, I go to the mandir and I feel close to the Lord. But you see, without the guru, our perception of the Lord is only a projection of our limitation. And that's why we'll see many people in the world, they'll see the Lord as a judgmental Lord. If we don't act a certain way, he will judge us, But that's because that's us humans. If someone doesn't act the way I want, then I judge them. They're not good anymore. Yeah. And so we project that on the Lord. And only the guru who truly knows the unlimited Lord can introduce us to the unlimited Lord, because the guru brings us out of our own limitation. And so even when we have a great connection with the Lord, like Namdev Goswami, even from a childhood, he had such a connection with Krishna that Krishna would appear to him. They were best friends. One day, many years later, he was already an adult. Krishna appeared to be sad. And he said, oh, Krishna, what's wrong? And he said, oh, no, I shouldn't tell you. And he said, please, we're best friends. You can tell me everything. He said, no, you won't like what I need to say. Said, Krishna, seeing you in such a state upsets me. You need to tell me.
Yeah.
And he said, there's something I want to give you, but I can't. Only a guru can give it for you. Only a guru can give me to you in the totality. And of course, Namdev was like, what does that mean? No, other people go to gurus to have you, but I already have you. And he said, but you don't have me in my totality. Only the Satguru, which destroys one's limitation, can give Bhagavan in the fullness, because they are not limited. Only the unlimited can give the unlimited. So that's why we need a guru, and that's why we bow to the guru first.
Wow. That's, using the podcasting language, that's a good segue into Seva. Tell us about what is Seva and why is it important?
Seva means selfless service. It's not work. It's very important. These are often people start Seva, but it becomes work. And the difference is work is self-centered. So some people start their Seva and they'll say, oh, look how much I'm doing. Look at how much I'm serving the Lord. Oh, well, that's no service no more. That's work, because I exist. In service, only the Lord exists, only the Guru exists, only the other exists. And Seva is very important because it is the essence of love.
So what about those who say that the only thing I'm doing is just working? Let's say I'm running a business and I'm making a lot of money, more and more money, so that I can help feed more and more people. That's seva for me. So I'm working, making money, and I'm giving food to the needy who can't afford it. So is that seva, or is it not?
It is very good. I'm definitely, don't misunderstand. It's very good. But as long as I am doing this work so I can do something, I can feed the people, it's not selfless anymore. It's still actually selfish. But doesn't mean it's bad. It's still very good. We should do it. In that, what we need to do is before and after Krishna Arpan, give it to the Lord. Say, Lord, even though my ego is very into this, it's very activated, and I feel I'm the one doing, Lord, you are the one who is doing all things. And it's you doing it. I'm giving it to you in the beginning. I'm giving it to you in the end. And eventually, then I won't exist. I'm not the one making this money to go feed these people, but it's the Lord. And why is that important? Because it makes us happy. That's the point. If we keep on, I am doing this, then in the end, I will suffer because I'm not doing enough, or I'm doing too much, I'm exhausted, whatever. That will create suffering. I, me, mine create suffering. But when we are Bhagavan-centric, we say, Krishna, you're the one doing. Narasimha, you're the one doing. Gurudeva, you're the one doing. Then if it's good or bad, doesn't matter. This is Karma Yoga 101, like giving up the fruits of our actions. In the end, we're free. In the end, we're happy. Then if we feed lots of people or little people, it doesn't matter. We've done it from our heart. The Lord doesn't look for quantity. He looks for quality. He looks how much love is in it. We could feed the entire world, but if we do it with great pride, so what? We could feed one person with great love. That will touch the heart of the Lord.
Wow. My wife's, she's sitting right here. She's a Christian devotee, and on occasions, she would ask me to do the bhog before eating anything and stuff like that. So I've been doing that without knowing the reasons for it, and I've understood that now. So thank you for, yeah. So I mean, it's yours that I'm giving, like a portion of which I'm giving to you, and then basically what you're doing is giving it in His name and not getting the I out of it.
Exactly, because like your wife just said, everything of this world is the Lord's. And might say, "What? No, that's not true. I'm the one working through my effort. I made all this money, or whatever, But you see, I was not born with this money. And I was not born with this house. I was not born with this car. I was not born with anything. And when I die, do I bring this car with me into the next life, into Vaikuntha? No, I don't. It stays here. So that means I'm only borrowing it, including this body. This body stays. And so I'm borrowing this body. And so even in a friendship, when a friend borrows me their car, of course, we treat it differently. And when we treat life itself like that this is not mine, the Lord has lent it to me, then I'm also free. I'm free of attachment. I can enjoy it fully. Life is here to be enjoyed. The problem is we are attached, and that attachment, I, me, mine, this is my car, my house, my whatever, that creates suffering. But if I see it as the Lord's, then there's no suffering.
Please tell me about the Bhakti Marg. So if someone's not heard of it before, how would you tell them what is the Bhakti Marg? Where does it begin? Where does it lead you?
So there's somehow two Bhakti Margas, just to be clear. Bhakti Marga means the path of bhakti, that is found in all over the world. Yeah. It's the path of devotion. Our Gurudeva has named the mission which he has created, also Bhakti Marga. So just to be clear, there's
That is also an organization.
yes. Yep, exactly. So I belong to the organization Bhakti Marga.
Sure.
I also follow Bhakti Marga. Spiritual definition, organization definition. Bhakti Marga, where does it begin? It begins by putting someone that we love above us. Their happiness, their joy, their health becomes more important to us than our happiness, joy, health, whatever. Yeah. And this is natural. It's natural when we love, actually. If whoever it is, a friend, family, whatever, when we put them first, that is the essence of love. Again, going back to what we were talking about before, sacrifice. Of course, there is sacrifice. Sacrifice is a hallmark of love, but one is not cognizant of that sacrifice because the love, their joy becomes more important than one's own joy.
Yeah.
Right? So no one thinks, oh, I've sacrificed so much for you. Yeah. When we really love, we're not even aware of it. That's where it starts. The Lord has given us family and friends so that we can learn to love, learn to put others first.
You can experience what it feels like. Yeah.
Exactly. Bhakti Marg is just doing that more, doing that for the people, the random people on the street and Mother Nature itself, and just doing it more. The beautiful thing about Bhakti Marga is not that we have to destroy the ego. We don't think like that. What we do is we just try to love more. The ego is destroyed automatically when we love more.
Yeah.
And so it starts with our friends and family, and then it moves slowly to others, and then finally the feet of Bhagavan, the feet of the Guru, and we put them first. And because they are everywhere, so there's no limitation to Bhagavan. So when we put Bhagavan first, we put all things first above ourselves.
Can I ask you a silly question? We have a small little mandir inside of our house, and when I'm doing a puja and I'm, let's say, joining my hands and I'm closing my eyes, people usually ask for something and stuff like that. And but I've never really understood, because that's sort of a bribery, right? I'm serving you and I'm asking you something in return. What I instead do is, when I close my eyes and join my hands, I'm looking at, because the Murti that I was looking at, Krishna's Murti that I was looking at a second ago, as I close my eyes, that remains with me, and I feel it turn towards me, like, so Krishna, I try to feel it, feel that feeling inside of me, because it resides inside of me. Otherwise, what's the concept?
Correct. So
Is it correct or is it not?
no, that's good. That's great, actually, because it's beautiful that you recognize that our relationship with Krishna, our relationship with Bhagavan should not be transactionary.
Yeah.
Because if it's transactionary, then it's still of Prakriti, it's still of karma. Like, I do this and I get something in return. Well, then it's exactly like everything in this world. I work some hours, I get a paycheck, right? And one should expect that. But not in a relationship with the Lord, not in a love relationship even with the people.
Anybody. Yeah,
exactly.
It's not love then. Yeah.
Exactly, then it's not love. When we go to pray to Bhagavan, our prayer should be something along the lines of, Lord, just keep me close. Lord, let me feel your love more. Let me see how you are already looking after me and everyone I love, because you are already doing it. Our mind, our brain is programmed to be negative, and
necessary for survival.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But
because you're looking out for danger all the time.
Exactly. Yeah. And that was great when we were cave people, right? We had to make sure that we ate a berry, we got sick, don't ever have that berry again. Makes sense. We don't need to have such a mind anymore. Very few people in this world are looking at death in the face every day. We did long ago, not anymore. So we have the ability to change the mind and be positive and to say, well, actually, I have so many blessings already. And Lord, help me to see how you are already looking after me. And then the Lord, in that state, we take prapati, we take refuge. And we say, Lord, you're already taken care. You are the most merciful one. If I'm willing to try to work hard for the people I love, that they have a good life, how much more will you work hard for me, Krishna? You love infinitely more than me. And so when we pray, it's a prayer of communion, of feeling close to the Lord. That's it. And feeling his love more and more and more in our life. And then we will see his grace flow. Actually, his grace will flow so much that we won't even know what to do with it. We'll look around and say, Krishna, you give everything. Like, I don't know what to do. You're giving too much, Krishna. This is what happens when we take prapati. And Krishna says in the Gita, it's his pleasure to look after the ones he loves. His bhaktas, his devotees. It's his pleasure, to look after their welfare.
Yeah.
And we know that for each other. When we love someone, it's our pleasure. Yeah. And so it must be 1,000 times more.
It's a pleasure. It's a blessing. It's a privilege, I feel. Yeah.
Precisely. And that's how the Lord feels it. It's his privilege to look after his bhaktas.
Yeah. Wonderful. Tell me about music. So I mean, we can't do a podcast and not talk about Bhakti Marga's music. You guys create some amazing music, and that's how we got to know of you, because we've been listening to it. My daughter's been dancing to the Kirtans all the
That's
time.
so nice.
It's a regular feature of our evenings at home.
Wow.
And I heard one of your lectures in which you're talking about 9 stages of Bhakti Marg, in which I think the second one is
Kirtan.
Is Kirtan.
Mm-hmm.
And you explain it so beautifully that when you're listening to Kirtan, you're not using your mind. It's going straight to the heart, and it's appealing at the level of heart, which is why, you feel such an emotion and rush of emotions. Please teach us about the 9 stages of Bhakti Marga.
So they're known as the Navada Bhakti, or the 9 forms of Bhakti. And these are 9 natural ways which we show our love to the Lord. And we will see a lot of parallels in our human relationships. All of them, if we were to focus on one, we will have realization. We will be close to the Lord.
Oh, so I thought it's 9 stages, or it's just 9 forms you're saying?
Both, actually.
Okay.
It is 9 steps. It is 9 forms. The 9 steps is to see these 9 forms as steps on the spiritual path that we go through many lifetimes. This is a more of a metaphorical way to see them. But how can we use them in our daily life? And these are like taking them as practices, as sadhanas. The first is Shravana, and Shravana means hearing the glories of the Lord. So that means reading the Srimad Bhagavatam, for example, or reading about the lives of the saints. I mean, the saints are amazing because we see what's possible when we read about Mirabai and her relationship with Krishna. We get to see what's possible. And when we read about the saints, or we watch their movies, oh my God, there's like Tulsidas Goswami or Tukaram Goswami. These are amazing old saint movies. They're black and white. They're on YouTube. Everybody can watch them for free. They are amazing. I highly recommend it. But when we watch these movies or read these stories, their grace is there. And we get to feel a little bit what they felt for the Lord. So it awakens our heart and opens our mind to a new possibility. So Shravana Bhakti, very important. But that's natural. When we fall in love with someone, we want to get to know them. You know what I mean? And to get to know the Lord, we need to know his saints. Because the Lord is an infinite transcendental being. We get to know him, because we're limited, through stories. And how does he interact with his bhaktas?
Right.
So Shravana Bhakti,
which is why
important.
Ramayana and Mahabharata.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. 100%. That's why they're so important, because we get to know what does the Lord like. When we read the Ramayana, we get to know Ram, and what does Ram like? He likes service. And so if I want to be close to Ram, I should serve. So yeah. It's very important. next is Kirtan, like you're saying. And Kirtan is, we're just having great bhajan this morning, and tonight we'll have more bhajan, more Kirtan. It bypasses the mind. And the mind is important. If anyone believes on the spiritual path that we shouldn't have a mind, we disagree. The mind is important because it helps us navigate this three-dimensional reality. Otherwise, I'll just be walking into the wall thinking it's supposed to be a door.
Yeah.
No, I need a mind. But my mind should be used in service to my heart. When my heart feels whatever it is, my mind should go, okay, let me help you figure that out. Let's do that. If it's to come to the ashram, for example, or no, I want to be more spiritual. I feel that inside. The mind should go, okay, let's figure out how to do that. And that's when we are happiest. I grew up with 13 dogs. And so I love animals very much, but I can tell you dogs are happiest when their owner is a loving, stern owner. Because then they can relax, because then they know the owner is going to look after them and take care of everything. Right. And then they can be happy. But when the owner isn't a loving, stern owner, then they think they have to take care of everybody, and they tend to be very nervous. And the mind is the same. When the mind wants the heart to be the master of our life, and when we put the mind underneath the heart, then the mind is calm. Because we follow our heart and the mind says, okay, let me help you figure that out. Wow. Kirtan helps us with that because music bypasses the mind and it goes to the heart. And especially in Kirtan, when we're singing the Lord's name, then not only is it going to our human heart, it's going to our spiritual heart, to the core of our heart. It's awakening something extremely deep, our relationship with the Lord, which everyone has. Everyone has an eternal relationship with the Lord. And when we do Kirtan, it moves our human heart, but also pierces it and brings out our relationship, our eternal relationship with the Lord.
Which is why when you walk in and there's Kirtan going on and you feel a rush of emotions. Yeah. He said, please tell us about the next stage.
Next is smarana. Smarana means constant remembrance. And out of all of the 9 forms, this is the hardest to practice because it means I must think of my beloved 24/7. If I am eating or cooking or taking a shower or whatever I'm doing, even sleeping, my mind should be on my beloved. As a mental practice, almost impossible. I mean, that's a lot of hard work. But when it's a practice from the heart, it's easy. When we fall in love with someone, I was not always sannyasi. When we fall in love with someone, we go to a restaurant. And what do? We walk in, we say, oh, I want to bring my wife here. I want to bring my boyfriend here, my whatever. I want to bring my parents here. Because no matter what is happening in our life, we're reminded of who we love. And so if my mind is not on Bhagavan, who is unlimited, then my mind is on Prakriti, which is limited. There's only 2 realities, unlimited and limited, Bhagavan and Prakriti. And that's fine. Why should my mind be on Bhagavan? Well, because that makes me happy. And when I'm happy, I spread happiness. If my mind is on Prakriti, the ultimate result is misery, and then I spread misery. That's how it works.
So by Prakriti, you mean nature?
Nature, yes. Just everything, this universe, everything material.
Okay.
So if my mind is on the material, it means it's limited. In the end, I suffer and I create suffering for others. But if my mind is on the unlimited, on Bhagavan, then I'm happy and I spread happiness, right? So it's easy when we love the Lord. After smarana is padaseva. Padaseva means serving the feet of the Lord. So traditionally, we would say only Lakshmi does that in Vaikuntha. But where does the Lord reside? Well, in the hearts of everyone. So padaseva means serving the Lord in the people. But how do I serve the Lord in the people? By serving them spiritually, by helping them remember that the Lord exists and the Lord loves them and the Lord is always there for them, and we can do that in infinite amounts of ways. So serving the Lord in the hearts of the people.
Okay.
Yeah.
So an example of that could be spreading the message.
Sure.
And
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Kirtan Like if we do it we're walking around maybe doing, kirtan in the park or something, Of course, it is a service for the people that we hope that this music will touch their spiritual heart and they'll say, well, what is this? Like, I want to know more,
Yeah.
Or what we're doing right now, like reminding people that the Lord exists and the Lord loves you as you are. If we can love the people around us as they are, then how much more can the Lord love? The Lord knows us better than we know ourselves. And he stands there saying, I love you. There's no judgment from the Lord. We're all his children, right? Like in our ashram in Elmira, New York, Narasimha ashram, every day we say, Mata Narasimha, Pitta Narasimha, Bharata Narasimha, Saka Narasimha. That means the Lord is, Narasimha is our mother, our father, our brother, our best friend.
So so we've got 5 so far?
Shravana, Kirtana, Smarana, Padaseva. Next is Archana. So Archana means rice offering. It means the rituals, the pujas, the abhishekams. And every path has some type of rituals because we are beings that like habits, right? And the problem is we tend to have bad habits. But when we have a habit, our mind also becomes quiet. And when they are spiritual habits, when they are a puja, abhishekam, our mind can become quiet and we can speak from our heart. So in all of these rituals, they have deep metaphysical meanings. Like sign language. Let's say you know sign language. I don't. You teach me how to sign some things. I don't know what it means, but you would know what it means. So it's the same. When we're doing our puja, we're doing our abhishekam, we might not know what it means, but the Lord knows what it means. For example, when we're offering incense to the Lord, we're offering our delusions. Delusions are things which we believe are real, but are not real. The biggest delusion is that the Lord does not love us. It's the biggest delusion that we have. But we believe it to be true. But it's not true. The truth of reality is the Lord loves us as we are. That's 1 + 1 = 2. We can debate endlessly that 1 + 1 can equal something else. But it doesn't matter if I'm here on Earth or in Jupiter, 1 + 1 = 2. It's a fact of reality.
Yeah.
As the Lord loves us, that is a fact of reality. It doesn't matter how I feel about it. And so when we're offering the incense, even though for us, we're just offering beautiful smelling things, to the Lord, he is saying, okay, the things which you believe are real but are not real, I will take them onto myself so that you can have vidya, you can have knowledge, you can see the truth of reality. Wow. So Archana Bhakti is extremely important. Puja is extremely important because also what is another delusion? That the Lord is separate from us, that he is somewhere else. He's far away.
Yeah.
But actually, he's the essence of my essence. So when I'm doing the puja, even though my mind is here focused on Parinitya Narasimha, where is he in reality? In my heart. So my mind is focused here, but he is awakening in my heart. And there becomes this beautiful connection from the outside to the inside. Archana Bhakti, very important.
Amazing. And so it's great. I never thought about the rituals in this way. Just before we started recording, I just launched a corporate wellness program in which for the next 100 days, we're going to focus on building good habits. That's what they do. They make it automatic. And then when you have rituals for everything, you don't think much about this. Your mind becomes calmer, like you said, and you can just focus on what you want to focus on.
Exactly. Right. If every day we woke up and the day was completely new, we had to do a new thing every day, we would constantly be nervous.
Yeah.
But when we have these good habits and we've make our life in a beautiful ritual that supports our heart, our positivity, our mind can become quiet and we become happy.
Wonderful. We got 2 more.
4 more.
4 more.
4 more.
Okay.
So after Archana Bhakti is Vandana Bhakti. So Vandana literally means to physical prostration, bowing down. And you'll see that in all traditions. There's some type of bowing because when the physical brain is equal to the heart. So when we've bowed down or the brain is lower than the heart, there's a subconscious reaction, and that is a reaction of humility. One must be humble in front of the Lord. One must be humble in front of the Guru. We must be able to say, Gurudev, you know at least a little bit more than me. And that doesn't just mean the spiritual guru, but also our parents, our teachers. If I go to the university and I say, I know more than you, then what can I learn?
Yeah.
Nothing. One must be humble to life itself and say, every day life can teach me something. Every day, every person that I meet can teach me something. And so this Vandana Bhakti is very important. That's why when we go to the mandir, we always bow down. First thing, as soon as we enter, we bow down. And especially for bhaktas, what do? We walk into the temple, we touch the temple, the entrance of the temple to our heart or to our head. This is why, because the dust of the bhaktas' feet, that's where all the bhaktas come through the front door. So all of their dust is there, and we're saying all of these bhaktas are great, and I can learn something from all of these bhaktas. Because if I can't learn from the bhaktas, I can't learn anything from the Lord. Yeah? If I can't learn from the bhaktas, I can't learn anything from the Guru. And so Vandana Bhakti, bowing down, extremely important. I must be humble. After Vandana is Dasya. Dasya, so Tulsidas, Das, Dasi, means servant. So my name is the servant of Tulsi. And one should cultivate servitude to the Lord. I must say, actually, you asked earlier what was maybe some things that were a bit difficult for me. This was difficult for me. When our Gurudev was like, oh, we should all be eternal servants of the Lord. I was like, I don't want to be an eternal servant of anybody. Yeah. I want to be free. But this is where I misunderstood completely, because we serve when we love. When we love someone, we serve them. We look after them. And we see them as greater than ourselves. And we see that they're our love relationship, like you're saying, it's a privilege. Yeah. And when we have Dasya Bhakti, when we cultivate this attitude, we see that the Lord, why do we use the word Lord? Raja de Raja, he's the King of Kings. Why do we say that? Because this universe belongs to him. And so that means whatever I'm experiencing in this life is by his mercy. He could easily say, no, I don't give you that house. I give you something else. And when we have Dasya Bhakti, we say that everything of this world belongs to him, and I will treat it with respect. I will appreciate it, including especially the people in our life, our parents, our brothers, our sisters, our wives, our husbands, our children, our friends. We say, actually, they belong to the Lord. The Lord gave me this child, and I will appreciate this child with my entire heart as a gift from God. And then we are free. There's no attachment anymore. Then there's only love in our life. So Dasya is like a step beyond Vandana, where it's we give our life to God. Vandana is giving my mind. I'm bowing down and I'm saying, okay, I think you know a little bit more. I can learn from you. Dasya is I give you my life, because this life also belongs to you. That's why we say prananat. He's the Lord of our life. And at any moment I can come and go. Any moment the people around us can come and go. And when I see them as a gift from God, then there's only joy. And we don't take the people around us for granted when we have Dasya.
So beautiful. And what's the last stage?
Second to last is Sakya. Sakya means friendship, but it means relationship. Each one has their own bhava, their own relationship with the Lord. Some might have a relationship with the Lord as father or mother. Some might be that the Lord is their child, right? Like we read the Srimad Bhagavatam, read the life of Krishna. His life represents all the many different relationships we can have. Some may have friendship. Some may have the relationship of beloved, or das. So the Lord is the king, like Hanuman. Like when Ram sent Hanuman to the Himalayas to get the herbs to heal Lakshman. And of course, the beautiful thing about Hanuman is sometimes he acted like a monkey who knows nothing, and other times he was a great sage. He played both. And in this moment, when he came flying back, he was like, oh, I don't know what herbs. Let me just grab the entire mountain, right? And when he got back, Ram was so touched by his devotion, he hugged him and he said, "For saving my brother, you are my brother." But Hanuman, out of his great love for Ram, out of his relationship for Ram, he grabbed his feet and said, "My Lord, I am unworthy to be your brother. You are my king." And this is another relationship one may have. And so Sakya Bhakti is the remembrance that we have a relationship with the Lord, that the Lord is not just far away. He is family. Earlier you're talking about prayer. There are times when we need to go to our family and say, "Hey, I need help."
Yeah.
And when we go to the Lord, we should not pray to him as if he's far away, but say, "Lord, I need you right now." Like as I would go to my father, as I go to my mother, say, "I need you." There's no question. If I can't go to you, who do I go to then? And this is Sakya Bhakti. When we enter the mandir, we should realize, oh, he is my best friend, my beloved, my father, my mother, my brother. And this is Sakya. And this is what I very much appreciate, especially about our Gurudeva, is that he constantly reminds us of that relationship. He doesn't deviate from it. We were, during the inauguration of our Narasimha temple, there was some ayas there, some priests there that came for the Prana Pratishta. And they're amazing, amazing men. I'm so honored that they came. And but on the second day, one of the priests turned to me and he said, "Swamiji, may I ask, what does your family think of you? Now you've taken sannyas, so I don't mean to be rude, but you're a white person, he said, this is amazing. Like, why have you given your life to Sanatana Dharma, to Narasimha?" We were talking and he asked specifically, "What about your father?" And I laughed. I said, "I think my father's fine. He lives in the ashram actually. So it's fine. He is devotee." And he said, "What about your mother?" And I said, "Well, my mother is more difficult, understandably. I've taken sannyas and it's more difficult for her." And he said, "Oh, I'm sorry to hear that." And I was like, "Oh." I turned to Narasimha and I said, "Well, Mata Narasimha, he is the true mother." And I turned back and he was crying, and I was confused for a moment. So I was like, "Well, why is that touching your heart? That's just a fact of reality. Mata Narasimha, he is the mother of all." Ah, thank you, Gurudeva. Because it's such a truth after being with him for nearly 2 decades now. Every day, he's always talking about the relationship with God. That the God is our mother, he is our father, he is our best friend. And it's so ingrained in me that it's my reality now. And even when I love my mother very much, and we are quite close, but even if she says, "I'm not happy with the choice of life," I say, "It's fine." Because ultimately, my true mother is happy. Narasimha is happy, And this is Sakya Bhakti. And after that is Atmanavedan Bhakti. Atmanavedanam means the knowledge of the soul, that the reason why we exist. This is realization. And through our relationship with the Lord, through taking refuge, through having Sharanagati, surrender to the Lord, then he imbues into us the knowledge of reality. Everything he knows, he gives to his bhakta. And so eventually, slowly over time, we have realization. We realize why everything exists, why I exist, why you exist, why he exists. He exists for a reason. He could have also just not been Bhagavan,
Yeah.
So why did he create all of this? Why does he take form? All of this knowledge, not from here, but true knowledge, Brahmagyan. This is the realization. It's an experience that happens through the relationship, and that's Atmanavedan Bhakti.
That's beautifully explained. Thank you. Thank you for indulging us. And are these stages, or are these different forms? So can one choose one path and then reach the goal, or
Yes.
do you go stage wise?
Very good. Both, actually. Stages in the sense of how we progress spiritually, how we grow in our experience of God. Yes, that there are steps. But practically speaking, Absolutely. I can choose one. And once I go deep into one, the truth is I'll find them all, because love is love, you see. And what is the relationship between love and bhakti? This is important because they're not exactly the same. Prema is love and bhakti is devotion. When we say, think of a candle flame, what do? We immediately think of light.
Yeah.
But that's not actually fire. Fire is combustion. Light is a byproduct. And when we love, it's a natural byproduct that we show our love. Like no one sits there and says, I love you very much. No one does that. If we love someone, we show it. It is spontaneous. And so their love and devotion are so interconnected. So when we take any of these forms and we follow the devotion, the love will awaken, and then actually we'll find them all. Yeah. So if someone is called to one of them, especially Kirtan, if someone is follows Kirtan, go into it 100%. Just sing the Lord's name continuously, and then we'll see how close the Lord is. Like with Mirabai, that was her thing. She would constantly sing for the Lord, so much so that Krishna himself would appear and just to listen to her kirtan, her singing. Was she always aware of it? No, but others would see Krishna sitting there listening, because her devotion through her kirtan was so great that it would pull that relationship. It would pull the Lord to physically manifest, to listen to our bhajan.
It's amazing. Tell me about veganism. So that's one thing, one aspect of it. Earlier it used to be fine because there were villages and there was no exploitation. Now with the industries coming up, milk products and dairy products and Krishna thrives on them, right? He loves them. What are your views on that?
So we have taken vows of lacto-vegetarianism. So we are vegetarian, so no eggs, no meat, no fish, no chicken or anything, no poultry or whatever, no birds or whatever. We do have milk products from cows which have been treated as they should. Gomata, she is the mother, she gives everything. So we will have milk from such cows. It is very difficult to find.
I was going to ask that. How do you ensure that?
And so practically speaking, many of us are vegan because it is very difficult to ensure that. Luckily, I would say in our ashram in Almaria, there are some farms around actually that do treat their cows properly, that even when they stop giving milk, they still let them live. Nowadays, that's very rare. When they stop giving meat, then they sadly kill them. So we don't participate in that. Because why? Because Paramatma, the Lord, is in all beings. We do our absolute best to create as little suffering as possible. A saint who can live off of prana, that's next level, and they can live like that, and they give no suffering. We who are not saints yet, okay, then we do eat vegetables, we eat plants. And yes, there is suffering there too, where we don't delude ourselves, say there isn't, but we say that's as least suffering as possible for us to pursue our bhakti. So many of us are vegan. We don't shove our beliefs on anybody. But we do our best to live that way, for sure.
I'm so glad to hear that. Tell me a little bit about the tilak and the change of identity, the name, the Diksha name. They say that, you try to start acting like, or assume the identity of who you want to become. Is that what it is, or is there more to it, or is there a deeper meaning to it?
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, you hit the nail on the head. So one is the name or our clothes and the tilakam. So when we enter into the spiritual path, often we receive a new name. This is because our identity is so much connected to our name. So before my name was Mike. So Mike liked certain things and disliked certain things. But when I became Tulsidas, then I have a choice. Like, who is Tulsidas? and I can consciously choose to live a different way, in a much easier way. I can change my habits in a very easy way when I receive a new name. So that's why a new name is very important. In many spiritual traditions, they'll give you a new name when there is an initiation. Yeah. Not just here, but most traditions actually, because then I can be who I want to be in a very easy way. And it also helps me let go of the past, to let go of the who I was before, the relationships I had before, because not all relationships are good relationships. And so when I take on a new name, I can let all of that go. Of course, we dress a certain way. I think it's interesting. A white person dressed very traditionally. This is again to remind me of my way of life. It would be very easy for me, especially in America, to walk around in jeans and whatever. But I wear this 99% of the time, no matter where I'm going, because it's a reminder of my way of life. And of course, it makes it clear to others, and some people, of course, will avoid me for that. But others will approach and they'll say, may I ask, what is this? Because it's a constant reminder that I want to live a life which society doesn't necessarily agree with,
or understand fully.
Or understand. Yeah, exactly. And so it's a constant reminder. And then, of course, the tilak is, we're literally painting our beliefs on our head every single day. And it's a reminder. And what does it mean? So the red dot in the middle is the grace of the Guru, by the teachings of the Guru, by his blessings, by the techniques which he gives. We practice Atmakriya Yoga, by the puja which he has taught us. We grow in love. And this Tulsi leaf here is Tulsi's bhakti. She is love for the Lord. So by the grace of the Guru and his teachings, I can have bhakti. Bhakti then leads me to the U, which is Mahavishnu. It's his feet. Yeah, it leads me to the feet of the Lord. In the beginning, with our pride, we don't want to approach the feet of the Lord. We want to approach his face. But this is prideful, because the Lord is infinite, and if I can reach just his feet, I am safe. And so his feet are constantly showering his love upon all of us. So the U here is symbolic of his feet. And then the red line in the middle is Prakriti, is this universe. It's as much as we attempt to not be attached to this universe, we also give our respect. We give our respect to Mother Nature. Without her, without this earth, we wouldn't even exist. And so this red line is this universe and this earth and the Divine Mother herself. Through her grace, through her giving us life, we can attain realization, we can attain love. Without her, impossible, So we put our tilak on every day to remind us of the Guru, remind us of the importance of bhakti, remind us of the Lord, and remind us of the Divine Mother, that only through all of them can we attain anything.
Thank you. Since you said we can go on for hours, I'm misusing that and going on.
That's fine. It's a pleasure.
Please talk to me about self-love, because I've heard you talk about that in some of your lectures. And that's something that I'm still grappling with, and I find it hard to love myself. And I know there are a lot of people like that. How can one go about that?
Yeah.
And what is self-love anyway?
Yeah, very good. Self-love is often misunderstood because we believe, especially in modern times, that self-love means egoistic love. That means making myself physically beautiful, or I need to make lots of money or whatever, and then I can love myself, But that's not self-love. Self-love is to love who I am, regardless of my actions, my speech, my body, the external. Regardless. And we know this when we love our children. Like when they're good children, nice. When they're not being so good, not so nice, but I still love them, right? And that's how we should love ourselves. because I am something deeper. And so self-love is supporting my heart, supporting the things which touch me deeply. So if my heart wants to learn music, wants to go learn the guitar or the harmonium, if I love myself, I should do that, regardless if I'm a good guitarist or a good singer, good harmonium player or not. I should do that. Self-love
It's
is
just so hard. Because we judge ourselves every
yes,
minute
yes,
for all the actions that we've done, and we
yes,
know how much wrong we've done, and if only the world finds out, our identity will be in shambles. So
sure.
how does one go about like getting past that barrier?
That's a perfect question. How do we get past that? By placing our self-worth in the hands of Bhagavan. Because I don't even know what I had to eat last Tuesday. I have no idea, but the Lord knows. And how do I know he knows? Well, because I have a Satguru who emulates how the Lord loves. He emulates the Lord's omniscience. So I'll give you an example. One day, my father, Guruji's from Mauritius, as we said earlier, and Guruji every year, he brings a few devotees from his ashram back home to Mauritius for a few weeks. And my father was like, oh, teasingly with Guruji, he's like, oh, you've never brought me. And Guruji said, well, you've already been to Mauritius. And he said, no, I haven't. He goes, yes, you have. I said, no, really, Guruji, I haven't. He goes, 1978, you were there. Remember, you were in the Navy, and there's American base, naval base on the island right next to Mauritius. He said, you were there. Wow, that's absolutely true. He goes, yes, I know. The Lord knows all things. And this is just one small example of how the Lord knows everything about us. The Lord knows every breath we've ever taken, and the Lord stands there saying, I love you. So just think of us like we go to the court of law, right? There's two parties, and they're trying to prove which story is more valid, right, to the judge. Well, the Lord is the judge, and he's also the defendant. We're the ones who are prosecuting ourselves. And we're saying, no, I'm a bad person. But the Lord, who is the defendant, says, that's not true. I know you better than you know yourself. I know every breath you've ever taken in all of your lifetimes. And I'm standing here saying, you are worthy of my love, and you are worthy of your own love. Why? Because you exist. That's it. You exist. You are worthy of my love. You're worthy of your own love. And then him as the judge says, yes, that's true. and so how do I get past my own judgments is I must take my self-worth and put it in the hands of the Lord and say, well, regardless if I'm good or bad, you still love me. That means I must love myself. This is how we get beyond it, by accepting the Lord's unconditional love, by accepting the Guru's unconditional love. You know, I've made endless mistakes, more mistakes than I know of. And my Guru stands there saying, I love you as you are. Yes, I want you to change. I want you to improve. Why? Because then you can accept more love. You can accept the Lord's love more. But even if you never change, what do I care? I still love you, you see. And so the essence of self-love is Bhagavan love, is loving the Lord, because then we get to see how the Lord loves us. We get to see reality through his eyes. How do we start? By listening to our heart and following what inspires us. You know, you said you're a long distance runner. That is amazing. And I would say, keep going. That's wonderful. You love yourself and that touches you deep inside. Keep going and do that more.
Yeah. I see. I also see the what's the opposite of value. I also see like the downside of self-loathing, because it is also a form of narcissism. You're putting too much importance on. It's just inverted narcissism. That's what it is. Because why else would you discount everything nice about you and your life and focus so much on the negative all the time? But like you said, the Marg is the Bhakti Marg, where you give it to somebody larger than you.
Yes, precisely. But what you just said is very wise. You see, like you said, it's just like the opposite of the pride or narcissism that we tend to think of when we say someone's narcissistic. Oh, I am so great. But I am so great, or I'm the best, or I'm beautiful. This is all external. But the same as self-loathing is still external. I am ugly, I am bad, I am stupid, or whatever we would say. It's still externally oriented. Both of them are incorrect. One should be internally oriented, which has nothing to do with the outside. If I'm beautiful or not, doesn't matter. I am who I am, and God loves me as I am. And even if the whole world doesn't love me, I have the right to love myself. It's a right. It's not a privilege. It is a right to love myself, and it is a right to accept Bhagavan's love. It's not a privilege. It is a right.
Wonderful, Guruji. One last question, then I'll let you go. What would you want to say to somebody who's feeling hopeless in life right now? Like everything's just fallen apart, or maybe they're dealing with grief or whatever. I think the answer could be context dependent, but let's say they're losing hope on life. What would you say?
Yes, I understand. Chant the Lord's name, and chant it so much. 1 hour a day minimum. And for 40 days, just give it for 40 days. And 1 hour minimum doesn't mean 1 hour sitting. Just throughout the day, chant 1 hour a day. Because, of course, life is difficult, but also the Lord is there for us. And He is always there, especially in the difficult times. It's just difficult to see. And when we chant the Lord's name, when we do our japam, or whatever name you feel close to, we will begin to see His hand in everything, because everything does have a reason for it. And if we look back on our life, we will see that we've already had many challenges, but we've made it through all of them, and we will make it through this one too. And to help us to have that faith, chant the Lord's name. If you have the ability, if you're close to a mandir, go to the mandir, because the Lord lives in His vigraha, in the form, in the murtis. So go do your japam, go speak to Him and talk to Him. And even better yet, if you have the chance to meet a saint, if you have the chance to meet a sadguru, go do that, because they are the hands of the Lord. They are the mouthpiece of the Lord, and they know you and they love you, and they will show you how much the Lord loves you, no matter what. And once we get through it, we'll be able to look back and see the reason for it all. And so chant the Lord's name.
Swamiji, this has been an absolute privilege. You've been so gracious, and I've felt the love throughout the conversation. Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure. Thank you very, very much. Very insightful, very intelligent, and it's been lovely. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you for your kind words. Thank you. Jai Gurudev.
Jai Gurudev.